Richard Grenell. Richard, how are you, sir?
Thanks for having me, Glenn. It's one of my favorite times is to have a long conversation with you. So thank you for inviting me.
I appreciate it. You're welcome on this program anytime. I've got so much to talk to you about, but let me start here first with your thoughts on what is happening with the FBI between Mar-a-Lago and now the pro-life advocate who had the FBI come into his house, even though his attorney said he'll come in anytime, just tell us when.
Yeah, it's really outrageous. Look, we have to start and finish this conversation by saying that the rank and file FBI agents are very good patriots who love their country, who do not want partisan politics involved in the investigations. No weaponization of the tools of the FBI and DOJ. But unfortunately, the leadership, I saw firsthand, the leadership is not like that. Look, we have a system, whether it's DOJ or the FBI or the State Department or the Department of Defense. In order to get promoted in the swamp, you have to do certain things that the swamp wants you to do. You just don't get promoted up the chain, which means pay increases, which means better retirement. It means a bigger salary and a bigger office, all of those accoutrements that we value as humans. And so Washington, D.C. has created a system that unless you abide by their rules, which is woke rules, which is always going after Republicans, this is the system that is created in our bureaucracy. And people are eager to climb that ladder, so they play that game. But I will tell you, we have a crisis at DOJ and at the FBI because they have weaponized their power against people they don't like. Boy. It's crushing dissent. And look no further, Glenn, than first and second generation Americans who are the canaries in the coal mine. They have left fascism and totalitarianism. They're the ones on the front lines screaming about the Democratic Party, the media, and the problems in Washington, D.C. They see it. They left it.
So can we rid ourselves of it? I mean, you were front and center in this fight when Trump was in office. You know it from the inside as the DNI. So can we crush this?
Yeah, we can. And the reason why I say that is because I faced the rank and file. Look, I'll tell you a very quick story. When I was declassifying certain transcripts and certain information, I looked at the information and it was clear to me it was not a source of how we collect intelligence, and it was not a method on how we gathered it. And I went straight to the DOJ and FBI leadership, and I said, I have the authority. I'm going to declassify this information. And both Barr and Ray just, really said no. It's not a good idea. They started by doing the bureaucratic thing of delaying me, asking, stupid questions that just were clearly about bureaucracy, shoving me off on their deputies who would then create more bureaucracy. I was no dummy. I knew what they were doing. So I pushed forward for a meeting with the rank and file FBI agents whose names had been clearly attached to the redactions and to the classified information blocking. And I had a meeting. I pushed forward, looked them in the eye, and I said, why did you classify? Why did you redact this information? It's clearly not a source or method. They looked at me across the table at the Department of Justice and said, we don't agree with that. We didn't want to do that. Our bosses did. There were wimpy people in leadership who hide behind the tough decisions by throwing other people under the bus. As soon as I heard that, I said, I'm unredacting this. This is an outrage. This is a cover-up. And of course, the leadership was not supportive, but I didn't care. They threatened to sue me or expose me as someone who was sharing classified information. I said, oh, baloney. I'll challenge you. And by the way, once I did it, once I unredacted it, once I released it to the public and everybody saw that there was a cover-up of the Russian collusion hoax, no one sued me. They threatened to. They tried to stop me. But the reality is, in telling you this story, is that the rank and file know there's a problem. They hate it. But this is their life. They live in Washington, D.C., and this is their career, and this is, everything they know and their family needs is in this job, and they will be thrown out, and it will be very difficult for them. So we need leadership change. It's a long answer to say, yes, it can be done. We need leadership change.
Do I have Attorney General Barr wrong? Because I met with him, and I really liked him. I thought he was an honest guy. But there were a few things that didn't quite make sense to me, and we've seen nothing come out of the investigations that he was supposedly protecting. Do I have him wrong? Is he a bad guy?
I'm somebody that recognizes that there are gray patterns,
okay.
right? That not everything is not black and white. I sat next to Attorney General Barr in the cabinet. He was incredibly nice to me. He was incredibly complimentary of my brave and courageous work, and I think relatively supportive. But there were times when he, as someone who values Washington, D.C., he is somebody who wanted to have a life still in the Washington, D.C. legal circles, couldn't get past tradition.
Right. Okay.
And I think that's the best way to say it is that there are people trapped by tradition who don't want to support the outsiders or the people that are rocking the boat. And to me, Barr failed that test too many times.
Okay. Let me ask you, with the DOJ and Donald Trump, I mean, it seems as though the DOJ was very nervous about what Donald Trump had, and they have gone after him because he's got something on them, right?
Because of tradition. Look, the Records Act people are total hypocrites. You look at how they treated Obama,
right,
and it's completely different than how they're treating Trump.
Correct.
Think of the Records Act people as the ultimate swamp creatures to control. Here is a group of people who literally are saying, we, bureaucrats, must collect and approve what the President of the United States does. I'm sorry, that's crazy. The President of the United States doesn't report to anyone when it comes to classifying information or declassifying information. This is clear in the law, but it's not clear in the tradition of Washington, D.C. These traditionalists, these people, well, everybody always comes to the Records Act people, and, we are people that get to control this. Mm-hmm. It's a control thing. Washington, D.C. doesn't do well when people throw out tradition and try to fight for the people rather than for the process.
So was the FBI trying to cover their tracks?
Yeah, look, on a daily basis, all of the agencies in Washington, D.C., including the FBI and DOJ, they classify information when they look bad so that it doesn't get out to the public. You've got people like Adam Schiff who play along with this and who only leak certain information that helps the Democrats. It happens on the right as well. But what we're seeing is that this swamp attitude is a protection of the system. And so, yeah, they don't want the bad PR that they made the really bad decision early on with the FISA warrant. There were so many warnings early on that the Russian collusion hoax was a hoax perpetrated by Hillary's people throughout the government. Victoria Nuland, who was the Assistant Secretary of State for Europe at the time,
right,
who ushered in the Steele dossier in London. And, guess who else was the station chief at that time in London? Was Gina Haspel, who became the CIA director. Jeez. So you've really got this swamp mentality of protecting Hillary early on, trying to come up with every way they can to make sure that Hillary wins. and DOJ leadership, FBI leadership playing along because the system in D.C. wanted Hillary. She had been Secretary of State.
Right.
She was somebody they knew, and she had a team, and the team was acting.
It was also, though, because this, at least it seems to me, that this, Great Reset, this ESG system is in play all over the world. And, I think this is why they're going after anyone who, look what's happening. Look what happened with the Swedish elections, now the Italian elections. People are starting to say, we don't want your central bank telling us what to do. We don't want the government to collude with business and the central bank. It's not what we're looking for.
By the way, if the European Union or the central bank or the Feds were making decisions about the people, I don't think you would see the pushback.
You wouldn't.
But over time, let's just take corporate America, Glenn. You and I know Republicans have been very supportive of corporate America, lower taxes, and Chamber of Commerce events. And then the corporate America went the way of the media and our universities. They're completely woke. They're not for the people. They're for their own power. We all see it. Why are Republicans still wanting to fight for corporate America and lower taxes for corporate America? I'm not there. I'm done with it. I'm done with this woke. I think the counterculture is now conservative because the big man controls the universities, the media, Wall Street, corporate America, everything. If you want to be a 60s hippie that goes after the big man and does your own thing, you better be a conservative to this day. This is why Bill Maher is like abandoning the left.